Greetings, wonderful, wonderful philosophers. Welcome back to Disenthrall. I will be Patrick Smith. Today is a cool show. So, as you guys know, I spoke at Anarchapulco a while back, and my talk was on standards of reason and evidence. And as part of that talk, I challenged everyone at the event, basically, to come up to me and allow me the opportunity to challenge their most closely held beliefs, whatever those beliefs were. Several people actually took me up on it, a surprisingly high number of people. Today's guest is one of those where he came up and he was wanting to have a discussion, and it was right in the middle of something that was going on, and I couldn't do it then. And I think I put the discussion on pause and gave him an invitation to join us on the show to talk through whatever it was. So that's what we have today. Today's guest is Todd Cave. Welcome to the show. Good to have you.
Thanks, Patrick. Glad to be here.
Thank you for being one of the few people that is looking to have their beliefs challenged. I appreciate that. That is what we need a lot more of, especially in the liberty movement, because that's how we find truth, and that's how we find out where we're wrong. And it's that attitude that's going to allow us to free people if we are ever to be able to do that. So, again, kudos to you for, I guess, putting yourself into the flames, so to speak, of whatever criticism or not that you might get. It's been months, though, since the event, and so I just wanted to kind of back up and intro our conversation a little bit more than that. So first of all, you were at Anarchapulco. How did you find the event?
I found the event really good. I thought that it was the best one that I've been to. I've been to 4 in total, 2 as a normal guest, and then the last 2 times I spoke. And this year I covered some really high level information that is very much pertinent to what's going on in the world today. And I have no problem with anyone trying to challenge what I say, because I'm very well sourced, and I can point people in the right direction. And I invite people to go and read the books for themselves and ask questions, because sometimes I may miss something, and if someone has a valid point and shows me sources, I'm willing to change my my beliefs and my thoughts.
That's the attitude that we're looking for. I love it. Okay, so did you say you spoke this past year, or you spoke previously to that?
I spoke last year, and then I spoke this year as well.
Okay, what was your talk on? I missed it.
My talk was on the return of the Son of Man.
The return of the Son of Man. Okay, what does that mean?
Yes. Very good question. So basically, the Son of Man is really a consciousness. And it is what a lot of ascended masters have spoken about. And the last ascended master that really spoke about this was Christ. And basically, I brought down on my talk that the word that people would normally use is Jesus, but that word is actually not real, because it was actually invented. And it took about 1600 years of transliteration, more transliterating to get to Jesus. And in fact, the word Jesus actually means Hail Zeus. And Zeus was actually a Greek god in the Greek pantheon. And when you do more digging, you realize that all these gods of old were the Hindu gods, the Greek gods, the Sumerian gods, they all seem to come from a group of extraterrestrial beings that came here to Earth and basically seeded Earth. Now, a lot of people would tend to say, oh, well, that's a lot of woo-woo, but this is what I tell people. I go back to the oldest records that we have on Earth, are called the Sumerian tablets. And they talk about a history that goes back up to 450,000 years ago. And the Sumerian tablets are the oldest writing system that we have on Earth. It documents a time older than all the religions that we have today. And until we have older information than these records, we have nothing else to go by, So in these Sumerian tablets, you have a group of deities, but they call themselves deities, called the Anunnaki. And the word Anunnaki means those from heaven to earth came. And what they've done is that they've systematically set up a system of control that still holds the planet today under their control, but it's through their bloodlines. And the bloodlines that are controlling the world are like the aristocrats, the central bankers, the politicians, the monarchies, and characters like that. And what I have done is that I've been able to track as well as I could to see how these people, when they went to different regions of the earth, that they basically just changed their names, but we know them through their symbology, because signs and symbols are what rule the world. And they're very, very deep into astrology and astronomy as well. This is why they say that the billionaires, they study astrology, because they take a lot of their cues from the signs in the sky, the stars. And the return of the Son of Man is actually spoken about in Revelations. And there was a star sign that it's actually Revelations 12, and it talked about the great sign of heaven. And the great sign of heaven was actually spotted on September 23rd, 2017. And basically in Revelations, it talks about when this star sign is spotted, it means that we have entered 7 years of tribulation. And so many things have happened since 2017 that it feels like time is speeding up. And what I spoke about in Acapulco and the year before, I documented and showed how these characters have created this matrix that we live in. And fun fact for you, the word matrix actually is in the Old Testament. So there's nothing, as the scripture says, there's nothing new under the sun. So what I did is I have showed that the three main religions, as I call them, which are the religion of money, the religion of government, and the religion and organized religion. These three religions have captivated the world and have led us astray down a path of where we are today, with all the chaos that's going on, the transgender movement, the crashing of the dollar. We're seeing religions actually being destroyed, but it's just that people are not really realizing, And this is one of the reasons.
Sorry to interrupt.
Everything.
What were the three main religions? Money, governments, and what?
And organized religion.
Okay.
Yeah, and these three religions are what, in my opinion, my humble opinion, control the entire world. They create the basis for everything else to come out of, right? Because money is important, because without money, you can't do anything. You can't pay your bills. You can't travel. You can't buy food. And then organized religion now, for those people that follow it, it has them in a bit of a bind, because the word religion comes from the Latin word relegare, which means to hold or to bind or to thwart progress of, especially spiritually and in consciousness. And then you have the religion of government. And when you realize all the people that believe in these three religions, they all have the same type of mindset, which is that you can't really communicate with them. They're like zealots. They're fanatics. It's like status. You can't, communicate with status. People that are very into politics, whether it's right wing or left wing, you can't share any information with them. They would totally reject you. And then if you come to a religious person and show them stuff that goes against the religion, even if it is facts, they will literally throw that information under the bus as well. So that's why I say that these are the three main religions that control the entire world, and is the reason why we are in the state that we are in right now.
Interesting. Okay, and what made you want to watch my talk at the event?
Well, I watched some of your videos, the Anarchast, and I said to myself that it'd be an interesting conversation to have with you, because you are into freedom, so am I. But what it is now is that I use freedom as a bit of a platform to step up, because there are different branches of freedom. There's freedom, economic freedom. There's freedom spiritually. There's freedom in terms of your development. There's freedom in consciousness as well, because our consciousness is being dictated to know, but the powers that shouldn't be. This is what, the media, they control what we think and what we believe, right? So we're not really free. So I see this conversation as a bit of a offshoot. Is like a freedom is like the tree, and what I talk about is just a branch, and it connects back to the tree. Because what I find that in our community, we have people that are very rigid in their beliefs, and what happens is that they're not able to they behave a little bit like how the people that believe in these three main religions are, right? They would throw everything out to the bus, under the bus, right? And not be willing to have a conversation, to have their beliefs and their views challenged. And I have zero problem with anyone challenging what I believe, because I'm very well read, and I can point people into where to find the things that I talk about, And I find that in our community, we while we're very focused on, say, economic wealth and physical freedom, what we don't have is a talk about consciousness and spirituality, because those are other branches of the tree for freedom. So I said, you know what? I know you don't really talk about these things, but again, I would challenge you and see what you think as well. So maybe challenge each other, because iron sharpens iron, So unless we're willing to have conversations that put us out of our comfort zone and challenge us and make us think and go away and research, but we can't grow as people, right? And I find that, because I've been in the community for quite a few years, and the stages of growth and enlightenment, and a lot of people, from my observation, are at the same stage they've been for a few years, which is the state of anger, the stage of wanting to destroy and scream from the rooftop, all of these things. And
Yes.
that's the first stage that you get to. And then the next stage is then to realize, okay, well, I need to save myself because I can't save others. But in me saving myself, I can be an example and show people how it is done, right? Because while you may not be able to change the world, you can change yourself. And when you change yourself, you become an inspiration for others. And then those people will start to work on themselves and try to change themselves as well. And then we have that domino effect. And I mean, according to scripture and these signs, we don't have long before we have to really put this into gear and start to work on ourselves, on the other avenues of ourselves, because we are what you call a mind, body, spirit complex. And it means that we have to work on all three. And if those three are like a three-legged stool, so if you only work on one, it means that leg is strong and the other two legs are weak. So that means you become weak as well. So I said to myself that I would like to help our brothers and sisters to walk the path and to start to work on themselves, and to understand that there's more than only looking at precious metals, cryptocurrency, the fall of the empire that is being demolished in front of our eyes, because there's more to come after that, because without having love in our hearts and trying to help, we will have the world that we want to live in will be utter chaos, and it'll be like in the movies that they're trying to seed our consciousness and believe that this is how it's going to be, where we're going to block up the sun because the artificial intelligence, they're trying to take over. And if you watch the Matrix movie, we did bad things to get to that point, and then look at the Terminator movie. So it's almost like it's predictive programming. And I'm like, well, I can't change the world, but I can talk to people and sow seeds of hope, because I do think that we will make it through. But it's just that we have to pass through this very difficult time first, because a human being will never wake up unless they go through a traumatic experience.
I usually equate it to the stages of grief. So I think most people are when they're hit in the face with the realization that there's no valid involuntary authority. First, it's denial, and then when they realize that it's true, they get angry because they've been fooled their entire life and controlled based on a lie their entire life. And then there's bargaining, where they try and figure out how to refactor their life to not have their entire worldview sort of smashed. And then there's depression, which is the black pill, which I'm still struggling with, to be honest. And then there's acceptance, which, man, I'm working on it, but I'm not there yet, so to speak. But yeah, I think we're on the same page with that stuff. So most of the people that are watching this video, or that will watch this video, have not seen my talk at Anarchapulco. I'm curious, if I can put you on the spot, and it's fine if you don't or can't, but I'm curious what you like, what for feedback. What did you like and what did you not like? And was there anything about the talk? And no is a perfectly acceptable answer. You don't have to give me positive or negative feedback, but what did you like about it? What did you take away from it?
I like that you challenge people to think that there's more, right? What we're being shown is not really how it is. And you're trying to challenge people's beliefs similar to me. So when I heard you speak, I said to myself, well, you know what? You're coming at from a different angle and from where I am, but we're doing the same thing. We're asking people to challenge the things that they believe in to see if they're true. Because in reality, our thoughts are not really our thoughts. What we believe is not really believe, is being seeded to us and sown to us through the media, through the belief in government, through religion, through money, all these things. So I said to myself, well, okay, you're doing it from a different way. And I would say, well, let's have a chat and see, well, if there's any more common ground, between us, because I look at things from a very spiritual level and from a consciousness level. And you look at it from a more practical level, because the things that I talk about are not physical, but they're sort of like states of being. And you're more of a physical person where you're challenging, well, why do you believe in government? Well, that's just a belief. Where is the government? Can you show me the government? These kind of things. So it's like kind of challenging a sort of a physical way, but also in a metaphorical way. So I kind of like your talk, and I thought that you did well in your delivery to challenge people, because you had said that you had written to prepare your speech in one way, and then just before we were going to talk, you shredded that all up, and then you just went with your gut, and and that's what I did. I went with my gut and come to speak to you, and here we
awesome.
are talking.
Yeah, I had an entire talk prepared for months and months in advance to talk about what are rights and who gets them, and 3 days, couple weeks to 3 days before the talk, I ended up just throwing that entirely out and talking about standards of reason and evidence. I want people to think about precisely, like, you should be able to articulate to me, if you hold a belief, you need to be able to articulate to me the line at which something is shoved across into things that you believe versus things you don't believe. What does it take to make something move from a suspicion, a gut feeling, or something that you just don't believe at all, to something that you, Todd, believe? So can you articulate that to me? Like, what are your standards for the things that you believe?
Well, firstly, I base a lot of my way of being, beliefs, and the way I express myself as the base is integrity. Because without integrity, you actually have nothing. Now, a lot of people don't even understand what integrity means. Now, for me, integrity means doing the things that you say you're going to do. Integrity means that you hold yourself to the same standard that you hold to others. Integrity means that the way you treat yourself is the way you will treat others, and the way you treat others is the way you would want someone to treat you. So for me, a lot of things that I base my points of view are integrity. The other thing that I base on is love. And when I say love, love is an energy. Love is a frequency, and is the state of love that we're able to create, right? And the Mother, Father, God, that is the creator of all things, it is love, right? Because without love, you can't create. And as a person that is a bit of a creator, because I produce content as well, if I'm not in a high state of vibration, it's difficult for me to write a post. It's difficult for me to come up with captions, and all of it is to deal with love. And when you realize that the Mother Father God is love, and Scripture says that you come from the Mother Father God, it means then that you are God because you're a fractal containing the whole. So the way I like to describe it is like if you have a cup of tea and you take a spoon and you take some of the tea out of the cup and you have it in the spoon, the tea in the spoon is still the tea. It's a small amount of tea, but it still has the same attributes. And the tea is a representation of, say, what the Mother Father God is, right? It is everything. I am God, you are God, the plants are God, the animals are God, you know what I mean? Our neighbors are God. When you realize that, it means then that you realize that when you treat other people badly, it means you're really treating yourself badly. Because as they say, what goes around comes around. And the reason why that is a saying is because everything is energy. When you throw a rock into a pond, that rock creates a ripple, and the ripple creates an energy in the water, and that energy will go to the bank, and then when it gets to the end of the bank, it will come back forward, come back to where it started. So this is akin to karma, you know. So if you treat someone badly, chances are someone else down the road will treat you badly. And what we have today in our world is that people complain about how bad a man is or a woman is or this person is or that person is, but fail to realize that the treatment that they're getting is a reflection of how they've treated other people. Now, it's true that you can treat people really well and then other people treat you badly, but then there comes what we call discernment, where if you realize that you're treating someone well, but they're not reciprocating, your discernment has to tell you, well, you need to cut that person out of your life because you can't be helping and giving and be kind and be trying to help someone or love someone and they're not giving you back. Discernment then will show you that, no, you need to leave. And because you love yourself, you remove yourself from that situation. So I base how I talk about on integrity, love, and I also base the things that I talk about on ancient scripture and also things that I have learned through psychedelic experiences and received downloads from the universe and, you know, through meditations as well. So I'm able to connect a lot of different aspects of the human, you know, our experience here. Plus to have read loads and loads of books. So, you know, I realized that we can't take things personally when other people do things to us, because the way a person reacts to us is where they are in their stage of development and growth in consciousness. And what we need to do is to just you know, send them back love, but then you can walk away because scripture says don't cast your pearls to swine, you know. So you know, there's a lot of different things that are combined in the things that I believe and the things I talk about and the things I teach as well, because there's so many multi-layers to truth and to freedom and to love, because love is just a state of being. And in our community, we have a lot of like those 5 stages of grief, and a lot of people are still at the anger, you know, and we need to get to the acceptance where things become lighter and, you know, we don't, you know, like Bob Marley says, don't worry, everything is going to be all right. And that's where we need to get to, you know, because no matter how bad it seems, things will get better.
Okay, well, let's get into it then. So far in the conversation, you've listed several what I would call claims or beliefs. I can list a few of them off, but I want to find maybe one of the most important ones or one of the most strongly held beliefs that you have, so that we can actually kind of dive in and drill down on it. So you've said Jesus isn't real, signs and symbols rule the world, alien seeded Earth, modern day rulers are basically blood descendants of those aliens. 3 main religions that control the world are money, government, and organized religion. Love is an energy or frequency. Everything is energy. So those are some of the sort of the claims. And forgive me if I worded any of those in a way that you didn't like. I was just trying to summarize, not insult. Is there any particular belief or claim that you hold very strongly that you would like to have challenged?
Yes. So in terms of Jesus the word Jesus is not the original name of the character that became the Christ. And what it is now is that his name was Yehoshua or Yeshua. And this name was actually in Aramaic, right? Because Jesus came through many alliterations. So the name was translated into Greek, and it was translated into Iseus.
Okay, so you think there was an actual guy at some point back in history?
Yes.
Okay.
This is very, very well documented in history. Okay. Even the Jews, well, they bragged about how they killed him, innit? You know.
Well, I mean, even atheist scholars agree that Jesus very likely existed as a person. So yeah, okay, we're on the same page.
Yeah, and what it is that what's happened is that it took 1,600 years for that name to be changed, because his name was Yehoshua or Yeshua. And then what happened is that there were 4 steps that they were taken to erase the official name, and it took about 1,600 years to evolve. So the Hebrew was Yehoshua, and it was abbreviated. So the HW was removed in Aramaic to Yeshua. And then the Hebrew Aramaic names were transliterated into Greek as Iseus. Then the Greek was transliterated into Latin to Isus, so capital I-E-S-U-S. And this was the spelling that was used in the 1611 King James Version of the Bible. Now, ironically, Iseus or Isus was actually in Greek referring to the god Zeus, which was, from my research, to be another name for one of the extraterrestrial entities that came here, aliens that helped create us in this current form. And then from the Latin, it was transliterated into English as Jesus. So in reality, what that meant is that when people say there's power in the word Jesus, the character Jesus today, as how people understand him, never existed, because that was never his name. His name was Yehoshua or Yeshua, right? He was an ascended master. He was like, you can think of Yeshua as like a big brother that came here to teach us what to do and how to live, because the first early followers that followed him said they used to follow the way. They used to practice the way. Christ never, and also Christ is actually a spiritual office. It's a level of consciousness that you attain. And when you attain this consciousness, you become both male and female in terms of thinking. So when Yehoshua, he was here on earth, he was trying to show people that need to have more right thinking. So this is why when he used like stories and parables, so when he took the disciples and they went fishing, he said, cast your nets on the right side, right? He says you need to have right thinking. And then when the soldier came to take him to stand trial, Peter cut off the right ear of the soldier. So there are a lot of like allegories in his stories and what happened in his life to show you that the right thinking has not been embraced, and right thinking is actually the feminine consciousness, is the sacred feminine, and it is an energy. It's nothing to do with sex. So this is why you find that we have this bastardized version of trying to change your gender in the transhuman, transgender ideology that they're trying to push, right? Because they're trying to bastardize and corrupt the message that was being told 2,000 years ago. So right thinking is the feminine thinking, and the left side is the masculine. So masculine energy is order, control, structure, and logic. Feminine energy is more nurturing, compassion, kindness, and state of love. So those two actually coexist together. But what we have in the world today is we have a unipolar energy, which is more masculine energy, which is what the government uses. Order, a lot of structure. Do as I say, you will follow my rules. So it's too much. We've gone so far right that it is authoritarian, right? And Yehoshua, when he came, he was trying to show humanity that, look, you need to first thing first, believe in yourself. Because the trick is that he actually never really healed people. Because he was an ascended master, he understood the placebo effect. And anyone that knows about, vaccines or drugs, know that before they bring drugs to market, well, the way they used to do it, used to have a double-blind or triple-blind test. What it would, and all the drugs that came to market that use this this way to prove if the drugs work or not. There was a group all these studies have showed that up to 30% of people that were in these control groups where they received the placebo, up to 30% of everyone have healed themselves. So this is why Yehoshua used to say that through your belief, you are healed. Through your belief, you are saved. Because if you believe that you can heal yourself and that you would be saved, you will be saved. So because the people believed that he was the Christ, they had so much belief that if they just touch him, that they would be healed. So in actual fact, he never actually really healed anyone of their illness. They believed that he would heal them, and their belief was so strong that they ended up healing themselves, right? So what it is now is that he came, the early followers of him were followers of the way. They used to say that they were followers of the way. And anyone that's even knows about Dolores Cannon, she actually confirmed this. She said the early Christians, they were followers of the way, So he never came to set up a religion, or he never said to worship me and God, because he always used to say through the Father is how he's able to do things. It is always through, never he is the Father, because he realized that he's part of him, he's in him, and the Father's in him, and he's in the Father, and together they're one. This is why there's something called the high priestly prayer, and it is in John, I think it is chapter 17, and he says that I do not ask for these only, but also for those who believe in me through their word, that they may all be one, just as you, Father, are in me, and I am in you, that they may also be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. The glory that you have given me, I have given to them. So he's talking to us when he says them, that they may be one even as we are one, I in them, you in me, that they may become perfectly one. So you see, he's talking about oneness here, and he's saying that, look, it's through your belief, through your word. Everything is through the Father, because everything is one. This is why he said in the beginning that I am God, you are God. The man on the street is God, the plants are God, the animals are God, because it is all energy. And we are energy, because, we may not believe it, but we have a vibratory frequency. And this is why if the Schumann resonance goes out of whack, it affects us, because we are energy beings, because we are beings of light, and light is energy, which is why you have human, hue, light, man, the body. So we are light beings. So this is why I tell the people that Christ is a state of consciousness, it's a state of being, just like the Buddha is equivalent to the Christ. Krishna was also a Christ, because it was a state of being, because the word Krishna is Sanskrit, and it comes from the Greek word Christos. Christos, which is Christ, it just means the anointed one, right? So we have to become the anointed one. We anoint ourselves with that prana energy, which is the life source energy, and then we ascend to a higher level of consciousness. So
okay, forgive me for interrupting. We're going wide here, and we need to go narrow so that we can really focus on a specific thing. So again, I'm listening to you. I'm taking notes. I'm mapping out what you're believing here, and I want us to come to a specific claim that we can examine your beliefs on. So from what you just talked about, you said here again. I'm just trying to summarize and boil it down. So, and you can tell me if I've mischaracterized anything you said. I'm not trying to, of course. You said Jesus was an alien, I believe. That's a hell of a claim. We can examine that.
No, I didn't say he was an alien. I said that he was an ascended master, and he reincarnated here from a higher level in order to teach humanity the way that we should follow in order to ascend to a higher level of consciousness.
Okay.
Right?
And other things you said were beliefs can heal physical disease. Did I get that one right?
We know that through the placebo.
You said we are energy, God is energy, we are God. That was another one. So is there any of these that you'd like to really sort of put under a microscope and like sit with for a little bit?
Yeah,
like something really, like something specific.
Yeah, well, we can look at the healing, and we know that the placebo, because we know from the studies.
Hold on one second. Okay, so the claim that we want to talk about, and I'm gonna put it on the screen just so that I can focus on it, right? So let's see. And you know, I want this to kind of be in your own words too, right? But what I had said was that beliefs can heal.
Yes.
Physical disease. Is that accurate? Do you agree with that?
100%.
Okay. So now I'll just leave that there. How confident are you? Scale of 1 to 10. How confident are you that that is the truth?
10.
10 out of 10.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So there is not even a little chance at all, no matter what, that you could be wrong. You are 100% confident in that belief.
Yes.
Okay. What originally caused you to believe that that statement is true?
Because I looked at the studies with when they were bringing drugs to market, and the old way they used to do it is that they would have a double-blind or triple-blind placebo test. So they would have two control groups. One group would receive the medicine and the medicine that they wanted to bring to market, and the other group would receive a saline solution or a sugar pill or whatever. And the studies have showed that up to 30% of everyone in the placebo group would have a healing of the ailment that they wanted to get healed, up to 30%. And then I also looked at Joe Dispenza's work. Have you ever heard of Joe Dispenza?
No.
Okay, so Joe Dispenza, he really hammered it home for me, because he, in one of his books, I think is How to Be Supernatural, or Being Supernatural from memory, he had an accident where he was knocked off of his bicycle, because he used to do like triathlons and stuff, and he cracked. He broke his back, and basically doctors were saying that it was a very, very, very high chance that he may never walk again, and they wanted to put him into a bodysuit. And what happened is that he went to all the specialists in the world, and they were telling him that he needs this, and they will have to put all of these pins and nuts and stuff in his back, and eventually he probably would end up being crippled. And he decided not to do that, and he went home to basically meditate. And he said that they were telling him that within about 6 months he would probably not be able to walk. And I think from memory it is 10 weeks that he had. This was meditating and concentrating on healing himself with his thoughts every single day, like it was like how someone would go to the gym and exercise every day, but he was using his mind to help create healing in his body. And within 10 weeks of him being in a body cast, not being able to move and stuff, he actually healed himself, and he was able to start to walk again. And within 12 weeks, he was back in the gym. And then I think after 14 weeks, he was seeing patients again. So this caused him to start to delve into the this area of maybe thoughts can heal. And he started to he's written several books, and he's shown case after case after case after case that people heal themselves through their beliefs. And then I also read a book by Saint Germain called the I Am Discourse, and this trilogy. And Saint Germain, who was an elevated master as well, he said that if you have 100% belief in your thoughts can heal, you can actually heal yourself and remove the things like traumas and fears, and also have physical healing, right? So after I had read the I Am Discourse trilogy from Saint Germain, I found Joe Dispenza's work. But Joe Dispenza goes into the scientific having the empirical evidence to show. And there was a case that he had in one of his books where this guy, both your thoughts can be to heal or to cause you to die. So I'll give you a quick story about one of the books that he had. And there was this guy.
This was Joe or Saint Germain?
This was Joe Dispenza.
Okay.
So the stuff that Saint Germain talks about is more spiritual, right? But Joe Dispenza uses science to prove consciousness and spirituality. So there was this case that he talked about, a very classic one. So I think it was the First World War. They were obviously, you having war and people were having to have amputations and stuff. And what happened is that they ended up running out of morphine. So one doctor, because he knew about the placebo effect, he told one of the guys that was going to get his leg amputated that he's going to give him morphine. But he knew that it was not morphine, it was saline solution. And he injected him with the saline solution, and the guy had his leg amputated, and he didn't have any pain at all because he believed that he was receiving morphine. Now that's called the placebo. And on the flip side, there's something called the nocebo. And there's another story in his book. All these are case studies that he references. There was this guy that he went to his doctor, and his doctor just, for some reason, told him they had cancer. So this put a lot of fright into the guy. And the doctor said to him, he has at maximum 6 months to live. So he went away, and he started to get worse. So he heard about this particular drug, and he asked his doctor if he could try it. But the doctor told him that he couldn't trial it because you would need to be 3 months terminal, and he was 6 months terminal. So anyway, what the doctor did, the doctor also knew about the placebo effect, and he told his patient that he was going to give him this drug. Right, he would get it for him somehow. So a few weeks later, the patient went back to the doctor. He gave him the injection, thinking that this is the medicine. So a couple of weeks later, he saw his doctor again, and the cancer had improved. It had significantly reduced. But then a few weeks later after that, there was a news bulletin that came out that the FDA are going to take this company to court, right? Because of what we call it, false representation for selling, making claims that, can't be backed up. So basically it was a fraud, mis-selling, sorry. And when he heard about it, the guy became sick again. So he went back to the doctor, and the doctor says, don't worry, I'm going to give you the super duper version of this, the clean version. He gave it to him, and after a few weeks, it started to improve. And he said to his doctor that he just wants to make it till Christmas so that he can see his family. As long as he can make it to Christmas, he's happy. So anyway, time went on, and I think it was like a few days after Christmas that it was announced that the case was going to be called against the directors of this company. And about 3 or 4 days later, when the guy heard this, the guy died. But this is the kicker. When they did the autopsy on the guy, the doctor misdiagnosed him. He never had cancer. So it means then that his thoughts are what killed him, because since he didn't have cancer and he received only saline solution, his thoughts and beliefs that he was going to die are actually what killed him and made him worse. So there are many, many stories and cases that Joe Dispenza puts in his books that he references, right? So anyone that gets his book can go and fact check all the cases that he talks about, because these are studies. And as I delved more into Joe Dispenza's work, the stuff that I would read in books that are talking about you can do this with your thoughts, Joe Dispenza uses technology and science to prove it through like radio waves in the brain to show how when you're like having these higher level energetic thoughts, how much energy you're giving off. And you have like these meters and you can they measure your heart rate and stuff. So he proves that these things actually happen and occur either through healing, or if you want to put yourself in a lower frequency and kill yourself, that it would happen, no? So this is why I am 100% confident that what Christ said is that through your belief you be saved, through your belief you be healed, and then backing it up in some of these empirical studies through the placebo effect when they were bringing drugs to market, as well as through Joe Dispenza's work. So this is why I am 100% confident. And Saint Germain also said that if you have any doubt whatsoever that this thing that you want to manifest, and if you have 0.001% of doubt, that thing you want to manifest will not manifest, because there is a doubt. You have to have 100% conviction, which is what all these people had. They had 100% conviction that they be healed, just like when the lady just touched the shadow in the scripture. She was healed because she believed that if she just get close enough, even his shadow will heal her. So that's why I'm 100% confident.
100% is something that I get. I am 100% confident of almost nothing. The only thing I talked about this in my talk. The only thing that I am 100% confident is true is that I exist. I think, therefore I am. That's the only thing that I think anybody can be 100% confident in. So I really want to figure out, like, you would agree that humans are generally fallible. They can be and are wrong about many things. In fact, maybe most things. And even when they really think they're right, they can still be wrong. Like something as obvious as the sky is blue. You specifically could be a brain in a vat, and you're just being fed an image of the sky being blue. Like we can't disprove that stuff. And in light of those disprovers, how can you still say that you're 100% confident in this or anything in general? Like, isn't it possible that you're wrong?
It is possible, but all the information that I've seen proves that it is what it is. Because, like I said, one of the things that I look at scripture. I look at things from a consciousness, spiritual point of view. Now, with Joe Dispenza's work, what he's doing, he's taking the actual the data. He's using mathematics and science and physics and quantum physics to prove spirituality, right? Because we know that from these double-blind placebo tests, that we know that up to 30% of people can heal themselves. On the flip side, we know about the nocebo effect, which is the last case that I described with the guy that died when he was misdiagnosed with cancer. He never had cancer. So what it is then is that, his beliefs that he was going to die, or his beliefs, that he was going to die, are what killed him. And basically, there was another story with a guy that he was diagnosed with having 6 months to live, and he ended up living, when he was interviewed 12 years on, and someone asked him, so what did you do? He said, I just changed my mind. Okay, so
you agree that it's possible that you could be wrong. I just want to make sure that
you're wrong.
Okay. So
It's possible that I can be wrong, but the evidence shows that I am right.
sure. And we want reason and evidence. And I want to ask you about your evidence now. I just wanted to make sure, because saying that you're 10 out of 10, 100% confident is a very bold claim. And it sounds like maybe 99% sure would be a better number for you right now, right? Like,
I tell you the reason why I say 100%. If I say 99%, it means then that I'm allowing doubt to enter my consciousness. And we know that doubt comes from a place of fear. And as I said before, we are energy. There are only two energies in the world: energy of love, which is positive, energy of fear, which is negative. And what it is now is that if you allow any doubts which come from fear into your energy body, you will end up sabotaging the thing that you want to create or manifest.
might there be different, I don't know what word to use, flavors of doubt? Because I can certainly think of some kinds of doubt that are not based in fear at all. They're based in some sort of healthy view of the world. So, for example, when Joe Biden tells me that he's fixing the environment, or when Trump tells me that he reduced the chances of World War III, I doubt that what they say is truth. And that doesn't come from fear. That's just a healthy outlook on the world, and sort of a rational understanding of the motivations and biases behind the people saying these things. So wouldn't that doubt be a healthy thing to have?
I would rephrase that and say that their doubt is coming from the evidence that they presented to you in the past, where they're not very credible. So in this case, the doubt is that their credibility is very low. So why would you believe anything they say? So in this case, you're right. That doubt isn't coming from a fear. It's coming from the previous evidence that they demonstrated that you can't believe a word that comes out of their mouths. So,
or said another way, it could be from the lack of previous evidence that they were doing what they were going to do, or doing what they were said they were going to do. There was no evidence, and so there's sort of a healthy, rational doubt. All I'm saying, I'm trying to make this case for, like, doubt might not always be sort of fearful poison. Sometimes it's healthy and rational. Would you agree?
Yes, I would agree with you on this particular point. Yes.
So, speaking of that healthy kind of doubt, then would there be room to be honest and say that not 100% sure, but maybe there's 1% of that healthy, rational, I'm not omnipotent kind of doubt?
You could have doubt from the side of being a bit of a skeptic, and I think that being a bit of a skeptic is always healthy, which would confirm what you were saying before with Biden and Trump. So yes, in that respect, you could have a doubt which is not necessarily from fear, but being a skeptic, right? And to be fair, it means then that you have to keep challenging your beliefs and what you think is real. Now, the reason why I have 100% confidence in this particular one is because I've seen it on the spiritual side in terms of ascended masters saying something, which, again, you would have to believe, but you don't have the empirical evidence to back it up. But then when you come on the scientific side now, you have the science to prove that thoughts are things, and that thoughts are real, and that thoughts have energy, because thoughts create beliefs. So in this particular case, there will be no doubt, because what is being said on a spiritual side to increase consciousness is being backed up on the scientific side with evidence and studies. So in this particular one, I wouldn't have any doubt at all, because what was being said that is very, very old information is being proven in our current sort of time, through science.
So it sounds like you're very evidence-based in your belief, which I think is admirable. I think when you think about the breadth of evidence that you're using to justify your belief, is there any chance that even one piece of that evidence is wrong?
Well, I mean,
one piece, like one story, one data point in one of these studies you're talking about. Like, what are the chances that whole breadth and body of evidence that you're justifying is 100% accurate?
it's hard for me to have doubts because I've also seen cases where there was this lady, again, in Joe Dispenza's book, where she was about to receive, she was told that she had cancer as well and that she was going to get radiotherapy, chemotherapy. And she was told some of the side effects would be hair loss, nausea, et cetera, et cetera. And even without receiving the chemo, she started to lose her hair, become nauseous, and to lose loads of weight and stuff. So this is why it's called the nocebo. So this is why I am very confident that our thoughts and our beliefs can heal us, right?
So my question was like, can any piece of the evidence that you're using to justify be wrong?
I mean, it's possible, but
I think that's a rational view to take, right?
It is possible, because I would never say that nothing is impossible, right? I think that all things are possible. But for me, I use the way the system I use to be able to speak with such confidence is confirmations. So if I see a source, I have some information over here, and then I see another source that's not connected, confirms that, and then something over here confirms it and confirms it and confirms it. This is actually how truth becomes true. It becomes through confirmations. So while it is possible, it's similar to how the ethos is with cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. So we have confirmations of transactions. Mm-hmm. So it is possible that the blockchain could get something wrong, because it is possible. But because you have so many confirmations of a transaction, you can say that this transaction is bona fide and it existed and it happened because you have confirmations. So I use a similar thought process, that when I speak about things, I have such confidence because I've had several confirmations. So I will admit that what you're saying, and I like how you're thought-provoking, it is possible, but I think that where I'm saying it is unlikely because of the confirmation process that I use to show if it's true or not. So I wouldn't say that you're incorrect, and it's always good to have skepticism and play devil's advocate, which is great. But why use a system of confirmations to allow me to speak with such confidence about something, if that makes sense?
Sure. And I think, I guess I would suggest or maybe ask, so if it's possible that one of these confirmations, one of these data points are wrong, that should rationally lower your confidence from perfection, which is the ultimate standard. 100 out of 100, 10 out of 10, perfectly believe that this thing is true, to at least 99. Like, I'm not trying to get you down to barely believing it. I'm just, there's a point of human fallibility that I think is very important to recognize. It's sort of, there's a point of humility as well. And if we don't have that point of humility in our thought process, we are in grave danger of believing things that are not true, because we don't allow ourselves to be open to countervailing evidence, data points, and disconfirmation that might exist, because we're so confident. This is another thing I talked about in my talk at Anarchapulco. We're so confident in what we believe that we don't bother spending the time or opening ourselves up to things that might disconfirm our beliefs. What do you think?
I think that is absolutely spot on. For me, this is what I say, right? Me personally, to people. If I see evidence or information that is very credible, that would go against the things that I say, I will change my belief or viewpoint based on information. Because I am not married to any belief or ideology or anything like that. I'm very much of a person that I'm very evidence-based, and at the same time, I look at what was said from previous sources and old sources, because a lot of stuff that I talk about are from very old sources. So if we come back and find information that's older, or in this case about to show that you know what I mean, your thoughts are not things and your thoughts are not energy and they can't create or destroy, yeah, I would change my viewpoint to believing that you cannot heal yourself through your beliefs because someone or something would show up different evidence. Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, so I want to stand shoulder to shoulder with you, and I want to walk forward into this discussion now, examining this belief. And I want us to, let's look at some of these confirmations together. What would you say are the top 3 data points or top 3 stories or confirmations that should lead us to believe that this belief is true? Give me the top 3, and we'll just like really specific, just like this story, this story, this story.
Well, I look back at the stories of Yehoshua, and he said that through your beliefs, you will be healed, you know, and through your belief, you will be saved, right?
Okay.
So he's telling you basically, but he didn't say to think it, but because beliefs come from thoughts, indirectly, he's saying that your thoughts can heal you, right? So that would be the first, I would say, major data point.
Okay. Good. What's number 2?
The next data point is that I look at the double-blind placebo test that they do or they did for bringing out medicines and before vaccines when they did it that way, you know.
Okay. And number 3?
And then number 3 is I reference Joe Dispenza's work on where he lists many cases where people just had these like ailments. Like in that book.
Can we pick a specific one? Because I obviously haven't read the book and I can't just examine his entire body of work. Like, what is his strongest case?
Himself. He healed himself just by sitting down and meditating on reconstructing his back because it was broken.
Okay.
And he spent every single day doing it.
So of those 3, let's put them in order so that we can, I guess, spend our time wisely. We have Yeshua said, through your beliefs you'll be healed. You have the placebo effect, and you have Joe Dispenza healing himself through meditation. What is the number 1? Like, if you had to put those in order, give me 1, 2, and 3 in order of contributes to your belief that this is true.
The first one I would reference would be Yeshua.
Okay.
The next one I would say in order of, coming down would be Joe Dispenza healing himself.
Okay.
And then the last one would be the placebo effect.
Okay, awesome. So let's start with Yeshua saying, through your beliefs you will be healed. Let's just go into that. First of all, how do you know he said that?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, we only go by the records that we have that he said, you know?
What record is that? Like, if I wanted to believe that he said that, what would I look at?
You would have to go into the Bible.
The Bible.
And
okay.
you would have to go into the Bible and some of the apocryphal text as well that documented his life.
Okay.
He said those. And just for people to know, the apocryphal text or the text that they removed out of the Bible because it had too much information to basically allow people to have freedom and not be controlled by religion. So that's why it's an apocryphal text. And then the story about Joe Dispenza.
Hold on. Let's stay on number 1 first. Let's stay on number 1.
Okay.
I want to examine each of these, especially the strongest one first. So, I mean, certainly the Bible says that. I could look up the verse now, but I believe you. What evidence do we have that the Bible is true when it says that he said that?
That's a good question. So what we have are we have a lot of like Dead Sea Scrolls. We have a lot of different texts that were collated, right? Now, it is true that the Bible has been, you can say, written in a way in order to push a certain narrative. That I will admit. But what we do have is that there's something called the red letter. The red letter, I think it's called the red letter disciples, I think. It's basically the Bible, but in the New Testament, all the words that Christ actually physically said are in red letters, so you can read them. So these would have came out of, say, the Dead Sea Scrolls and all the other ancient texts, right? And when you have read enough, like me, you can get a feel for, because it's energy, right? And what he did is that he has cryptographically protected the information in a way by speaking in parables, right? So just like how we have cryptography for cryptocurrency, which is how you can send transactions anonymously. Well, when they say anonymously, without with some degree of anonymity, right? The information that when you really study the character Yeshua, you realize that he always spoke in parables. He never spoke in a way that was direct. And even with all of the fiddling with these books and these texts, his words, no matter how you change them, still portray the exact same meaning, right? And his words have a frequency inside of them. And for me, I get a lot of high feeling when I know something is true when I read it, because it vibrates with me, it resonates with me. And that's what he said also in when you read his text. He says, you will know that something is true because it resonates with you, right? And this is what happens to me. When someone tells me something that's true, I would know it's true. Like if you're telling me something, because truth and lies have a frequency. And when you're in tuned to a certain type of energy, you start to be able to decipher and discern which energy is the true energy, because it vibrates with you. And when they say things that are of a higher, that are true, I start to physically vibrate as well. So this is one of the things that I use as a bit of a litmus test to prove if something is true or not, because it vibrates with you, it resonates with you, it like shakes you in your core, and it's just like you just know. I don't know if that makes sense.
What I'm hearing, let me reflect it back to you, and you can tell me if I have it right or wrong. Is that you know that Yeshua said that because you get a feeling about it when you read the words. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Let's examine that way of knowing. So that's called an epistemology. Epistemology is, as you probably know, is the study of how we come to know things. The standards of reason and evidence. Is feeling a reliable way of knowing that something is true or false?
It depends. It depends. And the reason why I say it depends is that it depends on the source, and it depends on how in tune you are with your higher self, right? So your higher self is just you existing in different dimensions and realms, because we are not just a physical body, we are also spirit. So what happens is that when you become in tune with certain energy and you become aligned with it, when you hear things, you know, because it's just, okay, let me phrase it a different way. If someone is blatantly telling you a lie, you will know if this thing is a lie or not. Is that true or not?
I mean, I've been lied to before and believed them.
Okay, but if someone is like blatantly, like, you know what I mean, telling you porky pies, you'd be like, that's a bit, you have like a bit of a feeling where something's a bit off, no?
Like if they told me something obvious, like the sky isn't blue or something like that? Or what do you mean?
Or no, when I'm saying if they're trying to tell you a story, so if someone's trying to tell you a story and...
Oh, gut, like, are you talking about like gut feeling? Yeah, I mean, certainly we have intuition and gut feelings. Yeah, I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But so I mean, are those feelings and gut feelings reliable ways of knowing if they're lying? I mean, like, I'm sure that you've been lied to and your gut didn't catch it. You know, I'm sure that you've had one pulled over. Everybody has had one pulled over on them, and their feelings or their gut didn't serve as a reliable means of knowing in the time, right?
Actually, funnily you say that. What happens is that your gut feeling, for the most part, tells you if it's something is true or not. But then it is your conscious mind that interjects and goes against what your gut is telling you, right? So this is why you see in the human experience we're governed by five senses, right? But the one of like feeling and knowing, and use the right word earlier a few minutes ago, knowing is different from believing, because when you know something, it has a frequency. It's like truth. Truth has a frequency, right? And it is something that you feel inside of your body, right? So yes, what you're saying that because when you look at it, we are being manipulated to feel certain things, to get outraged and to go and behave in these very bad ways now with people in the street, etc. They're using that similar energy but inverting it in order to to sow seeds of anger and hatred and stuff into people. So you're correct where feelings can be manipulated, but look at the source. We know that these people are bad people, right? But look at the source in terms of like what Christ is saying, or what they're saying he said. When you start to delve into the information and you read other books, you get confirmations about what he's saying, right? So you can start with what he's saying and you can say, okay, I disbelieve. Just you can do that. And then you read other books and those books are saying something similar to what he's saying. Then you read other books, or you have a different source or a different person saying the exact same thing. Then you go back and read what the original was saying, and then it starts to make more sense. So then now what happens is that you start to get exposed to a certain frequency, because everything is energy. And energy exists all over us, right? And this is what Nikola Tesla even proved with his experiments. So for me now, when I look at his words, first and first, it has to make sense. And is it possible? Because if it doesn't make sense, no way could it be true. So when I look at his words and what he's saying, there's a knowing, because the frequency and the energy resonates with me. It's hard to describe because we're talking about things that are immaterial, but you get a frequency inside of you that causes you to vibrate.
It sounds as if you're saying that these gut feelings are more reliable than sort of a scientific study. So like your rational brain should take a back seat to your gut. And it sounds like you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, that your gut is never wrong. It's only that your rational mind overrides it in the moment. Which
well,
is that what you're saying?
No. So remember, you asked me in order of how we rate it. So I had Yeshua first, then I had Joe Dispenza, then we had the empirical evidence at the end. Now, Joe Dispenza uses empirical evidence in his books, and we also know about the placebo effect, right, in the studies. So the actual studies are the science proving what Yeshua said, if that makes sense.
Okay, I want to limit our discussion to the first one first. Yeshua saying that, and when I asked you how you knew Yeshua said that, it's eventually it said that you came down to a feeling that you get when you read the words tells you that it's true. And so now, okay, yes, we're kind of diving even deeper, another level deep, in examining that epistemology, that way of knowing. Is your gut feeling when you're reading the words a reliable method of knowing truth? And so after I asked you about that and you spoke for a while, I tried to reflect back to you what I heard, which was what I heard was kind of what I said. Your gut is always right. It's just your mind gets in the way sometimes. Is that an inaccurate way of I would say in
most cases, your gut feeling is the feeling that you should go with, right? In most cases, right? Now, the reason why I say most cases is because you can be manipulated or coerced to have those gut feelings through the information you're receiving, right? Because as we know, the media is very good at doing that. So one deciphering thing would be you can look at the actual source. Now, the reason why I say that is because we know the media tell lies. So just like you said, why would you believe something that Donald Trump or Joe Biden says? Because they have a track record of either not doing what they say they're going to do or just blatantly lying. right? So you can have a gut feeling, and then you can step back and say, okay, is this source credible, right? In Joe Biden and Trump's case, no, those sources are not credible, right? But in terms of Christ, I would say that he's pretty credible because all the things that he did were good things, right? But you can have skepticism to say, okay, maybe I want to have a pinch of salt to say, okay, I'll take that with a pinch of salt. So this is why I had the other two. But in terms of this particular one, that the first one, it is the gut feeling and the feeling that I get when I read the information and how it vibrates inside of me, right?
Well, I want to make sure we're spending our time wisely, right? So if this isn't the core belief, then let's move on to what is. But it sounded, I mean, you put those at the top, so I that's why I'm spending time on it.
Core belief.
So like without core belief, without this number one, like if this didn't exist and you were left with 2 and 3, where would your confidence be? Not 10 out of 10 anymore. Where would it be without this number one? Like how much would it reduce your confidence?
It reduce it to about 70%.
Okay, so this is a big deal. That's why I'm spending time on it, because that 30% is a big deal. So when it comes to a belief, right? Okay, so it sounds like you're saying. So we agree, I think, that our gut feelings can definitely be wrong for various reasons, and I think we'd also agree that one of the big reasons that they can be wrong and manipulated, as you say, is how we're raised. So if we're raised to believe that the state is this all-powerful source of authority that we should always defer to, then we're going to grow up believing that to be the case. And our gut is not going to be alert to when we're being manipulated by the state because we were brought up that way, right?
Yes.
And that manipulation is sort of built into our being at that point. And that can screw with our sort of gut feelings about things. So the first point I wanted to kind of reflect back to you is, okay, we agree the gut is not always a reliable way of discerning truth because it can be manipulated. And so the next thing I would ask you then is, I imagine a village of people, and I imagine that everyone in this village has always been brought up, and it's just been the culture for hundreds of years that they all believe in God. And they're raised since birth to believe in God, and they all have Bibles, and they all read their Bibles, and they all pray when things are wrong. And every once in a while, somebody in the village will get sick, or they'll have a tragedy, and they'll pray about the sickness, and the sickness gets better. Or they'll pray for help with some hardship, and something happens that improves the situation of the hardship. And every time one of the villagers has one of these occurrences where they pray and they get a better outcome or a better result, they attribute that to their belief in God and the stuff that the Bible says. And their gut doesn't tell them that they might be wrong because everyone has been brought up from birth to believe that these things are true. In the same way that we're deluded about the state, I think it's possible, wouldn't you agree, that people could also be brought up and have a blind spot. Their gut feelings could have a blind spot to this conception of God and being able to pray and get something to happen. You can have blind spots in other areas, and this might be one of them, don't you think?
Yes, it's possible.
Were you raised Christian?
Yeah, I was raised Christian.
I was too. So I'm speaking, I guess, from my own experience. So given that thought that you might have been raised and you might be experiencing a blind spot in the area of your gut feelings when it comes to reading words in the Bible, like through your beliefs you will be healed. What are your thoughts? Do you think that your feeling could have a blind spot in that regard?
Well, what I would say is that while I was raised as a Christian, I no longer identify as a Christian because I think that the Christian religion has flaws in it, right? And the Christian religion was created to dumb down its followers, right? And the reason why I say that is that it injected a savior complex into our consciousness when you're raised as a Christian, because you're saying, oh, and I don't like to use this word, but I use it for this case, oh, Jesus will save me, right? So you relegate yourself from doing any work on yourself because, oh, Jesus will save me, right? He is the redeemer, the this and that and third. So what it has done is that it is not giving you any responsibility for your life. Similar to the consciousness of government. People believe the government is their friend. People believe that the government is there to help them and the government will save them. So it's a very similar thought process, that you have with religious people and people that are believers in government, right? Mm-hmm. So what happened to me is that I had to destroy that belief of being a Christian and following that particular way and relearn this information through a different lens, a different scope. So what happened is that what you're saying happened to me, where I had to realize that what I was being taught and believed about Christianity was not real. It was an artificial construct. It was false. It was fake, right? Because when you look back at the history, again, remember what I was saying that you look at the sources? When you look back at the history of the Bible and stuff, you realize that it actually, things have been inserted in order to dumb down your consciousness so that you keep this savior mentality, right? So what happened is that I had to relearn or relook at this information through a different lens to realize, okay, but what's written here, that is absolutely garbage. But this over here is actually makes more sense. And then they delved into, okay, it makes sense because I have a gut feeling, but I need more. So I read more. So more things, it became confirmed over and over and over and over again, right? So this is why I said that it is the number one, because I had the feeling, okay, this is different, right? Because it resonates with me in a different way, because the blind spot I had to this information, that blind spot was removed when I started to understand it in a different way. And then using the skeptic in me, as I read more and I started to research more, it kept being confirmed over and over and over again. So this is why I say that it is the number one for me, because this is I don't want to call it the mother of sources, but it's the source that most people go to, which is the Bible. But the caveat is that you need to have discernment in order to read the information to discern whether it is true or not, right? So you would get the feeling, but you should investigate more, because as you rightly said, your feelings and that feeling can be manipulated. So to see if it was manipulated, I had to delve deeper, but I kept coming back to that information all the time, that your thoughts are really things and your thoughts are energy and they can heal.
So if I read 5 Bible verses to you and one of the 5 was fake, would your gut be able to identify which one it was? How confident are you'd be able to do that?
I'm very confident, and I'll tell you the reason why. Yeah, I'll tell you the reason why.
No, that's awesome. Can we do it?
So yeah, you can. So the reason why I tell you I'm confident is because I look at the attributes and I look at the energy. If it is positive, I have a high degree of certainty that it is actually inspired by God. If it is not positive, I have a very high degree of certainty that it has been put in there to inject fear into your consciousness and to make us what should I say? To make us to dumb down our consciousness, because the religion is designed to hold our minds, right? To grapple it, to not make us think, right? So when I look at stuff, if it's not loving and positive, I just throw it out because it doesn't serve. You know, we must have things that are positive and uplifting. If not, well, what's the point of the information? It's just to bring you down, you know?
Okay, well, let me give you 5 verses. Are you ready? Get your gut warmed up. Here we go. Okay. But because of his great love for us, God, who is rich in mercy, made us alive with Christ, even when we were dead in transgressions. It is by grace that you have been saved.
I would say that's positive, and I will have a degree of certainty that that is positive. That's of love, and that's of the Father.
All right, so you think that one is real?
Yeah.
Okay. Second, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen.
Again, I would say yes, because that's positive. That is trying to help and to uplift,
Okay. They that love the everlasting God shalt be shielded from disease. They shall be spared the famine.
I would say so, yes, because that's talking about belief, and that's positive to hold steadfast in your constitution.
All right. Number 4, may the Lord make your love increase and overflow for each other and for everyone else, just as ours does for you.
I would have to have context, because sometimes they use for the word the Lord. The Lord actually is a title that was one of the words that was injected in the Bible to hide the fact that these extraterrestrials wrote the book, right? But they put in positive stuff as well to have what you call, you have good cop, bad cop. So you have to take the good with the bad. So I would have to have a bit of context before the passages to be able to tell, because just by the word Lord, the word Lord gives me, sends red flags for me.
Okay. And number 5, go back and tell Hezekiah, the ruler of my people, this is what the Lord, the God of your father David, says. I have heard your prayer and seen your tears. I will heal you. On the 3rd day from now, you will go up to the temple of the Lord.
Again, I would have a bit of skepticism, because for the mere fact, the word Lord, because the word Lord is a title for master, right? And it was used a lot for the god of Babylon, Baal, right? Or Bel, which is really Marduk. So that's another long conversation. So okay. I would have a bit of skepticism.
Let me do one more bonus one then, because the Lord one, I think, I just want to make sure that the Lord thing isn't messing with our results, right? So, well, I mean, here's another Lord one, but I'm just using a random Bible verse picker, so that I'm not biased. Okay, for it says, "For the Lord thy God hath not given us the spirit of deficiency, but of knowledge and temperance."
Even though the word Lord is used, in this case, I would say it's positive. So I would have to check back, but I have a degree of certainty that that is positive.
Okay, so I gave you 6 verses. You identified 2 as questionable and 4 as you believe are true.
Possible. I say possible.
Oh no! Come on now. Your gut's supposed to be a reliable source of truth. You gotta be certain, right?
In context as well. I look at things in context as well, right?
Okay. Well, the results are that both of the fake verses you identified as true, and the 2 that you had issues with were direct quotes out of the Bible. So, I would put forward to you that maybe your gut is a fallible source of truth when it comes to knowing if something is even in the Bible. I don't mean to be like a dick and like gotcha, and that's not what I'm going for here. I'm trying to find ways to examine evidence that gut is not a reliable way of knowing the truth.
But don't forget, I did agree with you earlier that I said that your gut can be wrong if because we know that it can be manipulated because it's on feelings. So I did agree with you.
Yeah, I'm pointing out that, so if I included the verse about from Yeshua saying that your beliefs can heal you of disease, if I had included that in this list and it was 7 verses, what about that verse? How would you tell the difference between if I asked you which of the 6 that I read you are the fake ones? How would you tell the difference?
Well, the one that Yeshua said is causing you to take personal responsibility for yourself, right? And as you would rightly agree, personal responsibility is actually very important to live a life of freedom, to
I
live
agree.
a good and healthy life. So there are more things involved in terms of what Christ talks about. And that particular verse about your beliefs will heal you is at telling you to take personal responsibility for your thoughts, right? So this is why for me it is very important because it teaches is a bit of like, but this is what in our community we talk about, take personal responsibility, you know?
Mhm.
So this is why that highly resonates with me because it talks about personal responsibility.
What are the chances that so I'm not arguing that we can even accept for the sake of argument that that Yeshua did say that and that the Bible is accurate. Let's move on because I don't want to beat the horse too much. I'm not trying. I'm not trying to be rude. Hopefully you believe me when I say that. Hopefully your gut tells you I'm being honest when I say that.
No, I have no problem because you're challenging me, right? And I told you could challenge me. So
all right,
I think
good.
it's a great conversation.
I appreciate it. Okay, so let's just say, for the sake of our discussion now, that Yeshua did say that your beliefs can heal disease. What? How do you know that is true?
Good question. So you would have to look at stories of other people, right, that actually healed themselves through beliefs. Because there are a lot of like we gave the story of Joe Dispenza, but there are also other story. There's a study that shows that people that would sit down and physically think that they're exercising a particular muscle or muscles, like physically envisioning them training, they had just a little bit percentage under in terms of muscle growth than the people that actually physically went and trained in the gym. So that is an example then of, okay, it's not in healing, but it's just to show how powerful the thoughts are, right?
Oh,
Because there's if you understand, it's a bit of a contrast, but I'm using that to show how powerful the thoughts are. Because the thoughts create your beliefs, right? And your beliefs create you. So this is why that's a bit of a juxtaposition to show that science has shown that if you physically like sit down for the same 45 minutes that you were trained, you envisaged set by set, rep by rep, you exercising, that you can stimulate muscle growth. Not as much as the person that physically did it, but you will have noticeable muscle development.
okay, so I guess that brings us then to number 2 on the list, which is Joe Dispenza's. Um, he says that he healed himself by meditating daily from a back injury.
Mm-hmm.
How do we know, or how can we know that what healed him was the meditation and not something else?
Well, all we can go by is what he documented in his books, and I'm very sure that people would have asked him to prove in terms of medical records and stuff. But from reading his books, he said that all the treatment that he should have received, he turned down, and he just believed that there was another way that it could be done, and he calls it I think mental practice. But I call, because I never remember his term, I call it mental visualization, which means that you're sitting down and you're physically creating the mental picture of this thing happening. But like he says, you can't just do it once. You have to do it repeatedly, 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 repeatedly. And then over time, you will get the response. So his story is confirming to me that your thoughts can heal and that your thoughts are things, because we know that thoughts are energy.
Okay, so let's because I haven't read the book, let's take him at his word and let's believe his story that every single day, maybe even multiple times a day, he's meditating.
Multiple times a day, yeah.
Okay, and he's thinking about healing, like you say, and everything that he said he did is true. He actually did those things. I'm just fine saying, okay, let's believe him. How do we know that him doing those things is what healed him?
Well, according to him, and we can only go by what he's saying, right? He refused the evasive surgery, and he wasn't taking any of the medicines that they said that he should be taking. All he did was eat high protein diet during that time, and the rest was him physically just sitting down, meditating, and thinking about healing his body. He said it was like his full-time job. So all we can go by is what he's saying, and as far as I know, no one has ever challenged that is true. So I take it as pretty credible.
Well, I try and look for, I'm constantly mindful of Occam's razor. I'm constantly looking for null hypotheses and ways I would disprove things. And the first thing that comes to mind is, well, I mean, my goodness, what if his body healed itself? What if his immune system healed it? What if it healed the damage in the same way that it heals other damage without thinking about it? Like, what if the meditation, the frequent meditation, caused him to hold still longer than other people with the same injury might have had? So just him being more docile and still while he's meditating, what if that contributed to the healing? And it wasn't actually the medication. It was maybe him sitting in a quiet room relaxing. Maybe the lower stress hormones contributed to the healing. Like, I try and think of other explanations, and then I ask, once I have a list of other possible explanations, I ask myself, how would I tell the difference between these other explanations and meditation? How would I know which of these things did the healing? What do you think?
Okay, so there are two types of you have the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. And one of the subconscious mind is connected to your sympathetic nervous system. And your sympathetic nervous system is what is responsible for healing. So basically, when you get a cut and you go to sleep, that sympathetic nervous system is what causes your body to heal. So when you do meditations, you start to access your subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is also called the mind of God, because that is your creative mind, because this is like a database. It's like a hard drive that stores everything that you see and hear, and information you've received, etc. is all stored in there. Now, you can hack. So funnily, well, this is a bit of a tangent. It'll make sense. When the pandemic started, they were telling everyone that this disease is deadly, it's going to kill you, it's going to kill you, it's going to kill you. So we're repeating that all the time. The people's subconscious mind started to get filled with this information. And what happened is that some people ended up dying because they believed that they were going to die, right? Because the information they were receiving was negative, right? And your subconscious mind is the same mind that would that confirms what you believe, right? So the story that I had told with the guy that he didn't have cancer, but he ended up dying of cancer because his subconscious mind thought he was going to die. But this is the subconscious mind that is powerful, that you can fill yourself. So if you fill your subconscious mind, you can rewire it, and you fill it with positive information, and you believe, okay, I can heal my body. But it's something that you have to constantly do. Keep rewiring it, because what you do is you create new neurons in the brain. And we know that neurons that fire together wire together. So what it is now is that in his case, by him doing the meditations and sitting down, by mentally visualizing that his body is healing, he was filling his subconscious mind with positive thoughts, beliefs, and energy, that his body confirmed the thoughts that he was putting into it, right? So by constantly feeding that he can heal himself, his body took over. So what you're saying is correct. Is like, how do we know that his body just didn't take over? It took over because he was filling his subconscious mind with the belief that he was going to heal himself, right? Because the subconscious mind is the most powerful mind that we have. It's the mind that creates our reality, which is why the powers that shouldn't be filled our subconscious with a lot of fear to cause us to allow them to lock us down because we were afraid of dying of this deadly disease. Make sense?
I hear what you're saying. It feels like you answered a different question than the one I asked. You explained how meditation healed it, but the question was, how would I tell the difference between meditation doing the healing and some other thing that was also happening at the same time, like merely holding still more, or maybe he was eating pizza with a new kind of anchovies on it while he was there and just didn't add that to his book. Maybe there was a new cell phone tower with an experimental 5G antenna attached to it, and the waves stimulated the healing in his body that was required. Given the other alternatives, I would first ask you, like, what are some other things that might have done this healing, and how could we tell the difference? How could we know which thing it was? How do we know that the thing he says it was actually the thing that did it, aside from just taking his word for it? And I'm going to hide myself because I have to shut my windows, but I'm still listening. So
Okay.
Go ahead and respond.
Okay. So what I would say is that while we can't say for certain exactly what it was, we're only going with what he's saying. And what we know is that the meditation can allow you to access your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind is connected to the sympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic nervous system is the system that governs all of your breathing, heartbeat, all the things that we are not in control of that just work. You know what I mean? Like blinking of your eyes, growing of your hair, all of these are connected to the sympathetic nervous system, which is connected to the subconscious mind. So the meditation connects you to the subconscious mind that causes all of these other things to, like you can say, like dominoes, to be connected, right? So while we can't say, oh, he was eating a special diet or whatnot, we don't know. What we do know is that thoughts are energy. And we know that energy rules the world. And we know that our body is made of energy because there's certain lights that you can shine on the human body and you will be able to see the energy coming out of a person, right? So what he did is that he used meditation and mentally visualizing him healing himself to heal himself because medical science told him it was impossible to do. Every single specialist, I think he said he went to 12 specialists, some ridiculous number like that. And every single one told him that he needs this invasive surgery. If not, he will never, ever walk again.
Yeah, I guess my point is like, and I agree, like doctors, and you would agree, certainly, doctors can definitely be wrong. And a lot of doctors can all be wrong together. I mean, I think we've seen that recently. And so if all these doctors can be wrong, then so can he. And so examining his claims to us, remember, I'm next to you on this. I'm not debating you. I'm trying to figure out how we can come to believe this guy's claims. He obviously thinks meditation did it, but how can we know?
Well, you can look at other people who've had similar stories, and what we do, we can try it ourselves, you know?
No, I mean his story. How do we know that what he's telling us is what happens? I mean, it sounds like
I understand what you're saying.
It sounds like you're asking me to just take his word for it. I'm not gonna. I can't do that. That's not a good way of knowing. Taking people's words for things. That's how you get fooled. I need some kind of way of knowing that what he wants me to believe is actually what happened.
Well, what I would say is that because he teaches a lot around the world, and he has so many different stories of people that have come to his courses and ended up healing while they were at the courses of different ailments, obviously. So what I would say is, like, remember how I was talking about, I speak about things that I've seen confirmations. So you can be a healthy skeptic and say, okay, well, I don't believe him, but you can look at all the other cases and stories of people that have healed themselves by doing the same thing that he was doing, which was one, changing your thoughts and beliefs and starting to meditate and doing mental visualization. So what you can say,
I understand he's told his story, and he's also told a lot of other
Right.
people's stories.
Stories.
The question is, what method do you use to know if the stories that he's telling you are true? What is your method?
Well, when you say my method, you mean how do I determine if what he's saying is true or not? I can only go by what he's saying and then the stories that he and the cases. Because, like I said, I go back to the placebo effect. We know how strong the placebo effect is. And we know that you can actually cause healing. This is documented in science. We know for sure it's called the placebo or the nocebo. The nocebo is when you cause harm, and the placebo is when you heal. So they're actually of this. They're like a coin that has two sides. The positive is the placebo, and the negative is the nocebo. But there's the same coin. Again, they're energies. So this is how I use to say, well, okay, you can say I don't believe you, Joe Dispenza, but if you look at the tons and tons and tons of state cases and stories that are extremely similar to his, you have to ask yourself, well, either he's a very good creator of his story, or you have to say, well, if many stories are confirming what he's saying, you would have to go the route of confirmation. Just like how you have confirmations on blockchain. If it's confirmed several times, then that's a bona fide transaction. And not a hacker.
Okay, so let me just reflect back what's happening from my side of the screen. So we started with your number one, which was Yeshua saying that your beliefs can heal disease. And we drilled down in that through gut feelings. And when I asked how you know that that is true, we basically moved on to number two, which was Joe Dispenza's autobiography about him healing himself with meditation and the other stories that he told of other people meditating and being healed. And then I drilled down into that and I said, okay, well, how do we know that they're telling the truth and that meditation is actually what, and I'm not even saying, maybe they're not even, I'm not even claiming that they're possibly being deceptive. Maybe they believe that meditation is what healed them, but how do we know that that's actually what did it and that these aren't just anecdotal stories or coincidences or other things going on that we're not privy to knowing? Like, we don't know every facet of all of their lives going on. Like, there's no, we don't know. There's a lot of unknowns, and their stories are nothing more than anecdotes. And as you are certainly aware, I'm sure you've heard the saying before, the plural of anecdote is not data. So I'm looking for a method of knowing that this is true. And so when we hit that point in the discussion, it seems like you then forwarded us on to your number three, which is the studies about the placebo effect.
Okay, so before we go there,
so I'm just reflecting to you, like where we've been and where we are. Do you agree with that representation? I don't want to take you out of place.
So let me ask a question then. So you made an important point there just now. You said that how do we know that those things actually worked? But they believed that it worked, which then would confirm that your thoughts and beliefs can heal. Because let's say that they're completely wrong. They all believed it. So they all believed it is confirming what Yeshua said, that is through your belief, right? So it doesn't really matter if we believe them or not. So let's say that they're all full of garbage and they're all confused. The mere fact that they believed that this thing healed them and they healed confirms that your thoughts and your beliefs can heal you. Because, well, they believed it. So notice what I'm saying. Let's say that you and I, we don't believe it, right? Let's play devil's advocate here. The mere fact that they believe that it healed them, it means that it shows that your thoughts and beliefs have the ability to heal, because it was purely their thoughts and beliefs that they can heal themselves, whether we believe it or not. Let's say we think that is rubbish. The mere fact that they believe it shows how powerful thoughts and beliefs are. That's what I would like to say.
Let me try and ask a question to illustrate what I see might be a problem with that reasoning. The Aztecs believed that if they didn't sacrifice babies to the gods, that the rains wouldn't come and they wouldn't have food for their families.
Mm-hmm.
The rains would come regardless, like we know that now. So if something was going to happen anyway, and we believe it, can we say that the belief is what caused it to happen?
Well, the thing is that if they didn't sacrifice, in this case, the example you're giving, we know that through evidence that the rains will come, right? So it means that their belief had no effect. But in this case, with the people, we have people that have been sick for a very, very long time, or people that were terminally ill, that actually reversed that process through their beliefs and thoughts. Whether we want to believe it or we do believe it or not, but the evidence shows that they healed themselves through their belief. Now,
I'm looking for the evidence. I'm looking for the evidence of that connecting tissue. So what we can say is that their disease reversed and they meditated. Those are two factual statements. The thing that I need you to give me a method for knowing about is the link between the two. I agree their disease reversed. And I agree that they were meditating. I need, how can I come to know that it was the meditation that reversed the disease and not something else?
The science. The science shows, because Joe Dispenza connects things to your brain. So he measures your brain waves. And what happens is that he uses the machines to measure the levels of brain activity going on during his meditations. So what he's done is that he's proven that when you use elevated emotion with an intention in your meditation and mentally visualize this thing happening, that the brain activity significantly increases. He's had people in some of his seminars. There was this one lady that could not walk. She's not walked for over 10 years. And she literally got up. And when he went back to the evidence, her brain wave activity, he said he off the chain. So it was through thoughts, because if you have something to measure your brain activity, only thoughts are in the brain, right? So obviously then he's using the evidence and the science to prove that the brain activity with the thoughts are what created the healing through the levels of the brain waves. So this is why we say you can use the science to say, well, this is the evidence to show that she couldn't walk and she walked after she experienced energy coming into her body through her brain activity.
Okay, so we're talking about a lady that came in and did a meditation session. He hooked her up to some machines, monitored her brain activity. The meditation, he saw an increase in his readings, that she had more brain activity during the meditation. And then when the session was over, you're saying she started walking.
Yes, she got up and she made her first few steps.
Okay.
And she hasn't done that for years.
Okay. So how do we know that it was the brain activity that caused her to be able to walk?
Well, he measured her brain activity before the meditation, during the meditation, and after. And it would be very difficult to say that it was not because of the brain activity that caused the healing in the body. Because There was no outside stimulants. She was not having any particular special diet at that particular time. Her brain activity was normal before the meditation started, and during the meditation there was a huge spike, and then at the end she got up and made a few steps, first time ever. So you can say that that brain activity there at that time and her walking are actually connected, because there's no gap of space for any special injection, special food, or special massage or anything going on. It's like a chronological order. It's like before, low activity of brain activity. During the meditation, spike in brain activity. Afterwards, she's walking. That's like in the beginning, you're hungry. After you eat the food, you're full. And then, after there's a content, it's like a chronological order, no?
Well, no, it's not enough. I mean, because other things could be affecting it during that process. It makes me think of the old Pentecostal churches that used to do the fake faith healing, where
the fake faith healing,
where they would come up and they would be excited and hopeful, and they would believe very strongly. And when the pastor did that thing where he'd knock them in the head and they'd fall back, and the parishioners would catch them and they'd hit the ground, and then suddenly they'd stand up and they'd throw their walker away and they'd do a little dance, because they had been healed and they could walk again. And they followed up on those cases, and turns out a day, a week, a month later, their disability had returned. And what it had actually been is just adrenaline and the mind's ability to ignore pain, to push through things, to be excited, that gave them the impression that these diseases were healed, when in fact it was not actually the praying, it wasn't the believing, it wasn't God, it wasn't being poked in the forehead and falling over. It was just other things that, when you look into it, all this is to say, like, I need more than just a story. I need real evidence that the meditation and that the energy in the brain, the meditation, is actually causing the healing, rather than just temporal adjacency, because other things could be going on.
Yeah, but the spike in brain activity is something that he has several cases of the exact same thing: increased brain activity, healing. So if it happened to one-off, you could say, okay, well, maybe that's just, you got lucky. But in his books, he's documented several cases of people, and because for the same reason why you're asking questions like this, he set out to prove, and the only way he could prove it is by measuring brain activity. And the brain activity scans always pick up a significant increase in brain activity right before the healing of the person. That's not enough,
has there been any? Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead. I keep interrupting you.
That's fine. So what I'm saying is that he set out, because the last book I read, he has set out, because a lot of people, a healthy skepticism, are saying, well, how can you prove it? And the only way to prove it is to prove with the brain activity, right? So he has tons and tons and tons of results, very sophisticated, expensive machines measuring brain activity. And right before healing, in every single case, there was a significant increase in brain activity. So this is why I say that the science proves that's what happened.
Has there been any independent studies that other people have examined his work or his patients?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I can't say yes or no, because I don't know.
Wouldn't we want to see other data points outside of him telling us something before we sort of believed what he was saying super strongly? Especially with something as extraordinary as this. Like, if he was telling me the sky was blue, I wouldn't have like a high barrier to believing him. But he's saying some pretty extraordinary things that would change the world and a lot of people's lives if it were true. And so it would seem that we need to be careful about what we believe in this area, and we need to have a higher standard of evidence. So wouldn't it be wise of us to withhold belief, or to apportion our belief to the evidence and look for outside evidence?
I think that's wise, and I cannot say if he's been peer reviewed or not. But what I do know is that there are other people in that sort of like genre of information that have confirmed as well that they have had patients and stuff that have had healing in these ways. Because even when we went to the spiritual genre, some of the spiritual healers, especially that do Reiki and energy healing and stuff, say the same thing. So I can't say and put my hand up in the air and say, well, he's been peer reviewed or not, because I don't know. I didn't delve into it. Because for me, I've had he's just one of the sources that I have had. And for me, because I've had several other confirmations of this information, he was just another one, right? But because he had the study with the brain activity and the machines, for me, that was significant to say, well, he's using science here to prove that consciousness and that spirituality is what it says it is through science,
Okay. Well, I guess my last question is, I've enjoyed the conversation, so thanks for sitting down.
This is a good conversation, man.
I hope you've enjoyed being grilled. I tried to do it as politely as I could, so forgive me if I was in any way harsh. Has your confidence level changed? You were 10 out of 10 when we started. Are you even 9 out of 10 now?
Still 10.
You're still 100%. Can't be wrong.
Yes. All right. I don't like to use words that I can't be wrong.
But isn't that the same thing?
Well, I tell you the reason why. Because by phrasing it like that, there's a slight negative connotation, right? And everything is energy. So I will rephrase it in a way to say that if other information or evidence proves that what I'm saying is incorrect, I would change according to that, right? If that makes sense. Because the reason why I didn't want to use a negative in that sense is because everything is energy. And what I do is I like to make positive statements. But something that's negative, I could make into positive and say the caveat for me believing is if there's information that shows that I am not correct in this case, I would change because I'm not married to the idea or to the thing that I believe, that I'm not married to it. I'm detached from it, but what I would say is that I'm open to change if something proves that I am not correct. Make sense?
I kind of feel like it's the same. You're saying the same thing both ways, right? So,
yes, we are. But
if there's other information, if it's possible that other information could come along that would prove you wrong, then how can you be perfectly sure? If I'm perfectly sure about something, then that means that I'm confident there is no other information out there that proves me wrong.
In this moment, having this conversation, I'm 100%, right? But what I said is the caveat is because I tell you the reason why I say that. A lot of people are married to their beliefs, right? And I'm not married to any belief, right? And the reason why I say that is that I think that it's healthy to have an open mind that if, which is a conditional word, something comes up or there's new information, new evidence where you realize that you had a blind spot that you can change, right? And I would have zero shame in saying that I got that wrong because this information shows that that is not correct. But a lot of people today would have beliefs like status. People that believe in these jabs, you know what I mean? They're closed-minded. They're not open to be able to say, well, maybe they were wrong. I am saying that if I am wrong, I could change my opinion. But as of now, I believe that this information is 100% true.
So if I presented evidence that this guy's meditation healing isn't what healed him, or if I presented evidence that the placebo effect was limited primarily to reducing pain, would that reduce your confidence in the belief?
Yes, it would.
Okay. All right. Well, that's
because you're giving me evidence.
That's all I can ask for. All right. Well, it's been a great chat. I'll give you the last word and make sure to shout out where people can find more of your work.
Yeah, so I just want to say thanks, Patrick. It was a very interesting conversation. Some people may think that I was a bit defensive or something like that, but I think that in order for you to have opinions or beliefs about something, you have to be open to those things being challenged and produce. And I like the fact that you were very, I don't want to say skeptical, but you did your role where you challenged me and you forced me to say, well, this is that. And I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. And I hope that other people enjoyed it as well, because it may not be generally some of the things that you would talk about your audience, but as people can see that, yes, I have strong beliefs in things, but I'm willing to have those things questioned, because if I can't be questioned, it means that I have a narrative, and we know that narratives don't really turn out very well, as we saw in the last 3 years, right? It's just a big narrative,
Yeah, completely.
So
I completely agree.
So yeah. So, I have no problem in having anything that I say challenged. And I appointed some of the sources that I have these here from. And I am a person that I believe that we are a mind, body, spirit complex. And for that reason, I help people to get in the best shape of their life. I am also an online fitness trainer, and I help spiritually inclined people burn fat and build muscle. And if anyone has any questions or wants to start to get into shape and live their best life, you can find me on social media, on Instagram at Adriano_246, or on Facebook, my name, Todd Cave, TODDCAVE. And if you have any questions about things that I spoke about tonight, because we covered a lot of topics, again, shoot me a message at Adriano_246 or Todd Cave on Facebook. Let's have a chat. And if I can help you to get in the best shape of your life, let's work together and see what possibility we can create,
I feel personally attacked by that offer. No, I'm just kidding. I'm definitely not in the best shape of my life. All right. Well, thanks again for having the conversation, and maybe we can talk again sometime and see where you're at.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
All right, yes, everybody.
Well,
thanks for watching.
Cheers, Patrick.
See you later.